Just to recap about the topic we discussed in our last class, we have discussed about the full backup, differential backup, and as well as the long backup, and we have also discussed a couple of scenarios for each type of backups we got in SQL. Today we try to have a demo on those three. The first is the full backup. The first scenario I want to show you is full backup, and the second scenario would be the combination of full backup and differential backups, and the third scenario would be full backup and transaction log backup. So the first scenario we have already saw how to take a full backup. So what I do is, in this first scenario, as of now I don't have a second instance, so I have got only one instance. So I have to back up the database from this instance, then I will drop the database and I try to restore on the same instance. But in your side, if you have got two instances, so what you can do is you can back up the database on one instance and you can restore the database on the other instance. So to back up any database, let me take a database called AdventureWorks, or I would take other database called SampleDB. Alright, so I have a database testDB and it got around 6 to 7 user tables. So I try to back up this table, so this database, and then I drop this database and try to restore it back. So in order to take a full backup, go to tasks, then backup. So I minimize it. Yeah. So we have already gone through with all these steps. So I'm gonna change this path because I want to take backup onto a different location. Into D backups, and this is testdb.bak. Click OK and then now you can just click on OK. So this will take a full backup of your testDB database. So you can go and check. So this is the full backup of my testDB database. So now what I do is I try to delete this database from this instance. So in your case, what you can do is you can restore the database on a different instance. You can keep this database as it is. You can connect to a different instance and you can restore on it. So imagine this is my second instance now. I don't have a testDB database. So in order to restore a database, you need to right click on the databases. And one thing before we start our restore process, we need to remember one point is you can always restore your backups from lower version and restore them onto higher version. But you cannot use backups of higher version and restore them on a lower version. The example is, if you have a backup of a database from 2008 instance, you can restore that backup file either onto 2012 or onto 2014. But in other case, if you have a backup file of 2012 SQL 2012 instance, you can only restore that backup onto 2014, but you cannot restore that backup on 2008 R2. You cannot downgrade your instance. You can always restore your database backup onto a higher version but not onto a lower version. So please do remember this point. So in order to restore database, you can right click on the databases and there you see an option called restore database. Select it and here select the device where our backup file exists. So browse that backup file. You can see a browse button here. Click on it, then add, then browse to the backup file, the full backup file. So testdb.bak, browse it, and as soon as you click on OK, you can see here the description of that backup file will be provided, the properties of the backup file. So once you browse the backup file, you need to ensure that you are restoring the right file. It is because sometimes what happens is a user, maybe a backup was taken by a different person and he didn't provide a proper name to the backup file. My backup file as of now, it says testdb, right? So I use the same name as my database. But some cases what happens is the database name would be something and the backup file name would be a different. So in that case, if you want to identify what backup you are restoring, whether you have picked up the right backup file or not. So you can do it this place. Before you go ahead with the restore process, once you browse the backup file, it will give you the properties of that backup. It says like what is it a database backup, then what type of backup it is a full backup or differential or transaction log, then after from which server this backup file or this backup being taken, and what is the database this belong to, and then after you can see this is the LSN values. These are the LSN values of the database. So once you take a full backup, from then onwards the LSN value will get reset. So these are the first LSN and this is the last LSN, and from then onwards when you take a log backup, your log backups will work based on these LSN values. Then you can still get some information like when was the backup taken, when was the start time, and when was the end time, and what's the size, and who took the backup. You still get that information, who took this backup. So once you feel that okay, everything is all right and this is the right file I have to restore, then the next thing we need to look at is the database name. What name you want to call for this database? Do you want to stick with testdb or you want to change it something like 123? You can always change your database name while you restore database. So it is not required for you to stick with the same name. You can always change the database name while you restore it. And on left hand side you see files. Go to the files. As we know that a database exists of MDF and LDF files, right? So when you restore the backup file onto this instance, where exactly you want to keep the MDF and LDF files for the database? So that what being specified over here. So this logical file name, this is a file type, this is a MDF and LDF, and the original file name is something. Let's say I have taken a backup. Just give me a second, please. sorry. So the original file name is something, it gives you the location of the MDF and LDF files of the database from where you took the backup. Let's say whatever the backup file I'm using, that backup was taken from instance 1. And in instance 1, maybe in server 1, the database MDF and LDF files might be sitting in MLL drives, right? So that is what the location it gives. And then after, restore as, where you want to specify the MDF and LDF files now. After this restore, where you want to host the MDF and LDF files of this database. So probably you might not have that M drive on your server where you are restoring it. Maybe the source server where you backed up your database might got M drive, but the server where you're restoring that backup file doesn't have M drive. So in that case, you can always go and change the location over here. So once you change the location, then on left hand side you can go to options. So here there are a couple of restore options. The first is a override the existing database. If you already have a test DB123 over here, then you can go with this option to overwrite it. And the next is a preserve the replication settings. Replication is an high availability concept in SQL. So if you are restoring a database that is already involved in replication, then you might choose this option to preserve the replication settings. And then the third is restrict access to the restored database. What it indicates is once you restore this database, you want to restrict access, that you don't want any users to connect to the database. So if that is the requirement, then you go with the third option. And the next important point is a recovery state. So this is what we were talking yesterday. We have got three recovery states: restore with recovery, restore with no recovery, and restore with standby. So the description being provided here, if I select restore with recovery, what it does is leave the database ready to use by rolling back uncommitted transactions. If there are any uncommitted transactions that were happening on your source database while the backup was running, so those uncommitted transactions will be rolled back with this restore. And at the same time, your database will come online. If I change this to restore with no recovery, then once the restore is completed, your database will be in restoring mode. You cannot access your database. And at the same time, additional transaction logs can be restored. So in my first scenario, I'll be using only full backup. So I don't have any further backups to be restored on this. So that is the reason I'm choosing restore with recovery. So when I choose restore with recovery, once the restore being done, the database will come online. So now you can just go with OK, and the restore has been successfully completed. So on left hand side you can see the test DB123 has been restored and it is online and accessible. How can you say the database is online? The easy and short way is, if you don't see anything beside your database, and if you can expand your database, that indicates the database is online. There is a full backup scenario, and the next is we try to look at the full and differential backup, the combination of full and differential. So let me create a new database and we use that. I'm creating a new database called CRM. Okay, database is successfully created, and you can see now the first step is I've created database, and the second step I'm gonna take a full backup of this database. Even though this database doesn't have anything in it, it's a fresh database. At second step, I'm taking a full backup. So I change the path just to make it easy. I am naming it as full.bak so that it would be easier for me to identify that this is a full backup. And you can just click on OK. You are done with the full backup. Now, third step, I would like to create a table. Let's say user is creating a table called students. Okay, so I need to create a table inside this database. So change it to CRM, and I write a script to create a table. With ID, integer, name, varchar of length 100. So I'm creating a basic table with two columns on a database called CRM. Oh, yeah, I think it picked up from model database. Yeah, so in model database have a table called students, so that's the reason it automatically created. So let me remove this table so that I can create it freshly. Right, I re-execute this statement and a table was created now. So a user created table called student, and then as a fourth step I will be taking differential backup 1. Okay, so to take differential backup you need to right click on the database and go to the same location, that is backup, and here instead of full you now need to select differential and then add a file. So I'll be taking backup onto my D drive. It's crm underscore differential 1 dot BAK. The extension for differential backup is also .BAK. So just to make sure that you have selected the right backup type, which is differential, the differential backup 1 is done. Now, maybe assume after an hour, a user inserted inserted 5 rows in students table. So after you took a differential backup 1, a user inserted 5 rows in students table. So let me insert 5 rows. I'm just changing the name. Okay. So I'm inserting 5 rows in table called students. So now my table has got So I move it down so that they can use later. So just I try to read the data from students to show you the data. So you can see there are 5 records. The ID value is same. Okay, that's all right. Still, it should be okay. So I've got 5 records in a table. Now, as a 6th step, you took differential backup 2. I hope you are following this scenario here. At first step, I have created a full backup, then I have taken a first step, I have created a new database, then immediately I have taken a full backup. After that, a user has created a table called students, then I took a differential backup 1, and then user has modified some data. That is, he inserted 5 rows in students table, then I took a differential backup 2. That's what I'm doing now. So change to differential, add the file, crm underscore differential 2 dot bak. This is my second differential backup. Okay, now at 7th step, maybe after 5 minutes, the same user inserted 5 more rows in students table. So I'll be using the same query I have got here. So I will change the number. Okay, I'm using the same names but different values. Okay, so in total in this table I have got 10 rows now. The first with value 100 and the second 5 with value 200. Okay, so a change has been made by a user as a 7th step, and as an 8th step I'm taking differential backup 3. Change it to differential. crm underscore differential 3 dot bak. Okay, this is the complete scenario now. So let us go and check the backup files. So these are my backup files. Let me delete the other backups. Even testdb is not required. Okay, so this is my full backup, differential 1, differential 2 and differential 3. So now my restore scenario is something like, what I do is, these are backup scenarios. Okay, now the restore scenario, probably I need to copy this thing onto notepad. Okay, so the restore scenario is, first I will be restoring only full backup, then we'll see how the database will be after a restore. Then we restore full plus differential 1 backup, And third scenario is we restore full plus differential 2 backup, and as a last scenario we restore full plus differential 3. And once I restore, I will be expecting an answer from you that what the database might contain. Once I restore, once I do the first restore scenario, how the database will be, and what happens if when I do a full backup and differential backup, what data do I gonna get with the database. So the first we do the restore scenario is the restore full backup. So I'll keep this database existing there itself. So I restore the database onto the same instance for now, but probably you can do it on a different instance. So I'll be browsing the full backup file, crm underscore full. Okay, I rename it to crm underscore full and go on to the files, and you see here I have already have the MDF and LDF files of the CRM database in this location. And when I try to restore this file, it again try to create the same files in the same location, and obviously it gonna get fail, saying that the crm.mdf and the crm underscore log.ldf already exist in this location. This is because the crm mdf and crm underscore log.ldf is being used by the CRM database. So to avoid that issue, we just need to rename this MDF and LDF files here. So I rename it to crm underscore full, and here the same thing, crm underscore full. So you go to options, and I will be choosing restore with recovery. It is because as per my first restore scenario, I'm going to restore only full backup. So I need to use restore with recovery so that my database will come online after this restore. The restore is successfully completed. So I have restored a full backup. If I expand this back database and go to tables, this students was created with the help of model database, or else we should have got a fresh database. If you remember, when I created CRM full, it automatically got student table. Okay, so that was created by model database. So the time when we took the full backup, this is the place where we took the full backup. So at the time of taking a full backup, we only got a brand new database. It doesn't have any tables or data. But the students table appears here, it is because of a model database. We have got that students table in model database, so that is the reason it was showing over there. So however, after taking a full backup, we have deleted it, so I just gonna remove it just to appear it's a brand new database. So what we got from output is it's a blank database got restored. And next we go on to the second scenario. It is restore full backup, and on top of it restore differential backup. So the requirement is restore full backup and then restore differential backup. So up to this level we gonna restore our database. So could you someone tell me that once I restore this database with using full and differential backup, what do I gonna get with the database? Does it be still a blank database, or does it contain a table along with rows, or a blank table? How it would be? Just think about. In the meantime, I will try to restore the full backup. So I'm picking up the full backup again as per the second restore scenario. So I name it as differential 1. Okay, it is because for the second scenario. So go to files and change the path of these files. I say it differential 1, then crm underscore differential 1, and go to options. Here now we'll be choosing restore with no recovery. It is because after this full backup restoration, we have got a differential backup to restore. So that is the reason we need to choose restore with no recovery. I'm just looking at the answers. Venkat, you are right. And Dinesh, if your answer is a table without any data, then it should be right. Kaushik, along with 5 rows, no. If you look at the restore here, we are doing a restore up to this level. Okay. So we don't have the 5 rows information in differential 1. We have got that 5 rows information in differential 2. Okay. So I will be restoring with no recovery. Okay, did I change anything? Oh, it's .mdf. I think I have deleted it. All right. So go to options. It is restored with no recovery. So now just observe. Okay, so it says access denied. I should have admin permissions on that. It says permission issue, so I just try to share this folder. Okay, let me add everyone. saying about MDF file. Okay, I need to check that, but for time being what I do is I will try to restore onto D drive. I create a folder called data in D drive, and let me change the file location. Okay, I change the file location onto D drive, D data, then crm underscore differential 1 dot mdf. Same way for ldf also. I name it is crm underscore diff1 underscore log dot ldf. Okay, options, restore with no recovery, that's fine. We are restoring a full backup, so it's done. If you go back and check here, so you can see the crm underscore differential 1 is in restoring mode. Okay, it is because we have selected an option called with no recovery. So the restore scenario is we have restored a full backup with no recovery, and on top of this we need to restore differential backup with recovery, because this is the last backup we are trying to restore, and after this we want our database to come online. So what we need to do is we need to restore differential 1 with recovery option. So right click on this database, go to task, and then go to restore, and then select the database. Again go to device and browse the differential 1 backup file. So crm underscore differential 1. Again this is an bug from the management studio where I have seen it couple of times. It doesn't allow us sometime to restore the differential backup through GUI, but the same thing you can do it using the tsql command. So let me try using the tsql command. Restore database differential 1. This is a syntax to restore a database. The backup file I have located on D backups. Copy it. It's on D backups. Okay. Now I say with recovery option. So change it to master and just click on execute. And you can see this has been successfully executed, and whatever you are seeing at this page, it is just a bug with the management studio. Okay, don't bother about this one. If you do encounter this type of case in your real time when you try to restore differential backup, then please do remember this is a bug. You can always use an alternate method of restoring a database using a query. So I have restored database differential 1 with recovery. So you can refresh the databases, and now you can see the database is now online. And as everyone said, this database has got students table but without any data in it. So have tried to read data from the students table and you can see it's almost empty. There is no records in it. So this is our second restore scenario. What is the result? It's database, however, we got it. So the extra is a table without any rows. So the third scenario we'll be using now, restore full backup, then differential 2. So I'll be restoring a full backup, then I'll directly restore a differential backup. So up to this point, we are trying to restore our database. So can you quickly tell me what do we get once we restore this scenario? So I'm restoring a full backup. Okay, I name it as crm underscore differential 2. Then let me close and reopen this one. Okay, I've browsed the full backup file and I'm gonna change the location from C to D. I name it as crm underscore differential2.mdf and I change the same thing for LDF. And on left hands, on options, again, can you tell me what option should I select? Either it is a restore with recovery or with no recovery. Yeah, now see the answers and everyone were right. So a table with 5 rows. And the warning on top, it shows like it is saying that it's gonna take a tail log backup of the source database. So it is not required for us. So once you go on to option, you need to disable this. So it's not required. So what it does is it will take a last log backup on your source database and it brings the database into restoring mode. So it's not a good practice of doing it. So we uncheck it. And here we choose restore with no recovery because we are restoring a full backup, and after this we want to restore a differential backup. It's taking a long time. Okay, maybe I haven't changed the name here. Right, have to use a different name. Okay, with no recovery, that's all right. Yeah, let me try it again. So we have restored a full backup with no recovery. So you can see the database in restoring mode. Now on top of it, we try to restore second differential backup. And again, I don't think it gonna show you using a GUI, but let me try it. Differential 2. No, it's not allowing. So that's all right. I use the same command, but I just rename the file. Instead of differential 1, in our previous case, we have used the differential 1, but now I will be using the differential 2 on CRM underscore differential 2 database with recovery option, because this is my last backup I'm restoring. So you can click on execute, and the database has been restored successfully. You can refresh your databases and you can see the database is online. Expand your database, go to tables and browse the table. Right click and do select, and you can see we have got 5 rows on the table. In the same way, we go with the third scenario. So what we got with this one, we have restored full backup with no recovery, followed a differential 2 with recovery. So the output we got is table with 5 rows. And now the third scenario is restore full backup, then a differential 3. So I'm restoring a full backup. I'm going a bit fast about the restoring because we have done many times about the restores. So I'm browsing the full backup here, and I name it as differential 3. Go to files. I'm changing the location of this MDF and LDF files for this database onto crm underscore differential 3.mdf. In the same way for LDF. Okay. I see a question, Nagavendra. What will be the result if we restore, if we first do full backup and differential backup 3 without using differential 1 and differential 2? That is what we are trying to do. That is our restore case 3. So I have changed the MDF and LDF files location, and in options here, I'm gonna select restore with no recovery. Database is restored, the full backup has been restored, and on top of this we directly restore a differential backup 3. So go to device, then browse to the differential backup 3. So it's not going to work. So let me use the same script, differential 3, select it and execute. The restore has been completed successfully. Refresh the database, and the database has been successfully restored, but what do we get out of this restore scenario? Can you tell me what do I get? Do I get a table or not? Do I get rows? If yes, how many rows it contains? I've used full database backup and differential database backup. Yes, that's right. We get table with 10 rows. So you can go and check, expand CRM differential 3, then go to tables and then do a select, and you can see there are total 10 rows available in our database. So this is how we gonna use our differential backups. So you can always jump onto the latest differential backup. It is not required for you to restore differential 1, then differential 2, then differential 3. It's not required. So any questions with these restore scenarios? I would like to stop here because we don't have time to cover the full and the log backup scenario. Can we restore one backup into more than one instance? Yes, we can do that. That's what the real in real case we do the same thing. We take a backup from one instance and we restore them onto a different instance. As I have not got the other instance in my machine, so I try to restore on same instance. But in real time, we restore the databases from production. Sorry, we use the backups of production database and we restore them onto UAT servers. I'm just going through your questions one by one. Question from Nagmender. So using a full backup plus differential backup 3, we can get all details about differential backup 192. Yes, it's right. And question from Ishwar, can we back up multiple DBs at a time? Yes, we can do. We can, if you have got 100 database on your instance, you can parallelly back up all those 100 databases on the instance, but there will be more load on your server. So any more questions? So guys, please try to perform some backup and restore actions on your machine. Unless you do practice, probably you might understand the logic, how to do it, how to backup or how to restore the databases, but after a week you find it difficult to remind the things. So I suggest you to do, please try to perform some backups and try to restore. If you have got different instance, then try to restore on a second instance. Okay guys, if you don't have any questions, I will close the call now. Okay, thank you.